Welcome, welcome. Welcome. I am the goddess of radical self love, and this is MECA, Make Everyone Count Always. We are a support network for radical self love and self care with focused attention on our community's most vulnerable care receivers and those who care for them, caregivers. When our community's most vulnerable care receivers and those who care for them, caregivers, feel supported and valued, the rest of us can feel supported and valued as well. Yes? hmm So that is the plan for our community here at MECA, which if you're watching this, I would hope you have subscribed. And if you haven't, be sure to and click the bell so you can get up-to-date videos. And like, comment, and share so that we can reach as many of those who need radical self-love and self-care in their life to become experts of radical self-love and self-care and master manifestors of the life they want and deserve. So today is Self-Transcendence Thursday. So we will be working with my boyfriend, Maslow. And to begin, I have pulled a card from our New Orleans Tarot deck. Petro. Fire. Legbala Flambeau. Number 6. Harmony. The Mother. Number 6. Care and compassion. But we do have to be quite careful with the number 6 so that we don't use and abuse the number 6, right? Take advantage of others' care and compassion and kindness. So let's go ahead and see what Legba La Flambeau has for us today in his messages. Legba La Flambeau, as the new sun, unfurls himself in the heavens, brilliant beyond description. He revels in first powers unweighed by knowledge of future consequence. His radiance stretches like a banner between the visible and invisible worlds. As Legba dances at the crossroads, his dance speaks eloquently of the joy of creation. Here is a coming forth in victory. The gray hair and elderly visage of Legba are emblems of his rank, and show that even a new sun is the product of spiritual processes, old beyond telling. Fire is will, and the fiery will of this Legba deeply penetrates the 6 directions. Solar plexus. The aspect of Legba La Flambeau is that of his newly initiated elder dancing in the crossroads. Yay, dancing! Fire shoots from his hands. His cane is a staff of fire, and his face wears a look of mischief. Although his look is devoid of malice, there is danger here. The fire of this Legba carries within it the disruptive potential illustrated by Courrier La Mardi Gras. The sparks of this Legba creation jump the vast emptiness between subject and object. He has no concern for where they lay or what havoc they wreak. His will is creation pure and simple. In this, he is sublimely successful. He moves between worlds with the snap of an electric spark. His feet crackle upon the ground in an esoteric dance. The new or red sun burns brightly at his back. Will upon will, fire upon fire fuels this frantic dance. His words are few and powerful. They seem to fall from his mouth, pushed by an eternal intensity that makes light of all external opposition. Just as there is great danger in culling this legba, so there is also great danger in leaving this Iowa unculled and unknown. His fire burns quickly through obstacles, those blocks to the unfolding of the universal will. Be certain that you are not one of them. Examine your actions carefully and approach this legba only in the fullness of your will. When you offer him all, he fires open and cleanses. The primary attributes of his legba are success, victory, and ongoingness. What could stop a force such as this? What could stay the fiery hand as it reaches through the crossroads? Again, this legba mirrors the Courier Lee Mardi Gras. The force this legba wields is beyond intellectual comprehension. It is untempered by compassion. He dances alone, fed by the awesome power of his own making. By his word, he creates himself, self-creating. His self knows no other. This legba dances on the head of the pure fool and the enlightened fool. A person guided by this card may be either of these two fools. A key to discerning which one is applicable is the degree of stability or the ability to carry out a sustained action or event. The pure fool may produce a brilliant display, but the effort is similar to that of fireworks, in that it is of short duration. Sorry. The works of the enlightened fool are much more likely to persist over time. This legba is the force and the fire of both fools. Contemplation. Touch the newness in your soul that has never known defeat. The newness that has never stayed from its original purpose. The image is that of the mane of a young lion that has never been tangled or torn in the heat of battle. Divination. Victory, obstacles swept aside, the first necessary victories of the pure fool. A newly initiated elder flexes his or her first powers. There is no grace, there is no guilt. This is the law. Do what thou wilt. I love that. That's an awesome saying for affirmation. There is no grace, there is no guilt. That's perfect for radical self-love as well. I mean, we try to be more graceful than that. That's why we have Manifestation Mondays with intentions and all, right? But this is the law. Do what thou wilt. It's beautiful. So, thank you, Legba La Flambeau. It's a great message, too, especially with the new moon, second new moon in Libra falling upon us. My vats of crystal full moon charged waters are going out again for the second time so that we may capture the power of 2 full moons in Libra. And if you would like a bottle of your own, you can email me and I will let you know how that goes down. Yes. So, the full moon and magical powers, releasing what you no longer need, which we work on Walk and Roll Away Wednesday. But with the Libra full moons in balance, right? Libra is balance and fairness, justice. And the first Libra full moon was in Aries, yeah. Wait, am I doing this right? Yes, Aries, and the second one is Taurus, I believe. I have to look again now. I know I'm right, so I don't know why I'm second guessing myself. But, well, if it's Friday, though, it hasn't become Taurus yet. Are they both in Aries? I will have to do some investigation. Yes, Well, I'll give you more information about it when I look it up. I have it all written down, but my brain's not working so well this week since I have so much going on. And my book was much harder to get onto Amazon, or it's being much harder to get onto Amazon. I guess it just has to be perfect for it to happen. I thought it was going to be much easier, but that's okay. It will be done by tomorrow for sure, if not today. I'm working on the cover for the, the actual 3D book instead of it just being online. So it's all fun. So that's good. But self-transcendence, yes. It's amazing how, well, one of my earth angels and really good friends and I were having a discussion this morning about support. Yes, and how confusing it can become when those who we believe are our friends and family, the ones who are closest to us, do not step up to support us, even in a vocal way, right? I mean, I'm saying, yes, there are times that people want support in a materialized form and others maybe can't, right? So your child, let's say they always have things going on at school and you're constantly asking people for money, right? Even though they get something in return, they may not always be able to support you. However, there are so many ways we can support each other that are just out of pure compassion and, integrity, really, I would say. And I was telling him I find it like very surprising how, well, I did, or do, how many of those who I grew up with, who know the Goddess of Radical Self-Love's early story about the snake that never sheds, have not come to support her in her efforts to get the story out, even though it is a story that affects many and could help a lot of people, a lot of individuals to understand that their story does not make them who they are, and good or bad, right? Even though I can claim a sense of strength and power since I was a very early warrior. It is still just a story, right? But it can aid others in their healing process to know that they're not alone, right? And I was saying that to him, how interesting it was that my newer friends, people that I have even actually only met within the last year, are the ones who are my biggest supporters in the last couple of years. Individuals from outside the state of Minnesota a lot of times, or Wisconsin. And it's just very interesting how that goes, where I don't quite understand it. But we had gotten on this subject about, I wrote it down, just the words, because, the stigma of depression, right? Because it reaches so far back, when I could spot it, when I put the pieces together about myself being an outsider in some ways because of the family that I was born into, with the abuses and neglect and which eventually turned to my own self-harm and whatnot, right? And how I became an easy target in a lot of ways to, I wouldn't call it necessarily bullying all the time, but definitely where individuals feel that, like, I don't know, maybe that the depression or these negative issues that were surrounding me or within me, I don't know, like they could catch them or something. Like, all I need you to do is say, I accept you. That was pretty much it, which I don't anymore. I don't need you to say that anymore, right? Through radical self-love, I have found my own acceptance and my own love for myself, so I no longer need, to have codependency from others. However, even if I wasn't looking for codependency, and maybe that's part of the reason I had it, is a lot of pushing away. You're not welcome here, right? And it turned into a lot of, as I got older, especially, and started like self-harming and feeling worse about myself, the ridicule or the "you're not welcome here" got a lot worse. Oftentimes with the word crazy thrown around. Even in my my ex-husband's family, a lot of the things that I had gone through for abuse issues, nothing that was in my control, I got that got thrown in my face and used against me. And then again, in my last relationship, it was definitely something that was constantly thrown in my face, like that there was something wrong with me because of the way I was treated, and then my response to it. So how I see it linking into self-transcendence, luckily I was able to transcend this self of self-loathing and get out of depression. But let me tell you, it was not by anyone else's doing or help. And knowing where I am now, with all of the issues others had put me through, when they knew where I was coming from, what I had been through, and yet they still decided to not support me and push me away and kick me when I was down, choose still not to support me. Maybe one of you can help me understand that. But I don't need them to anymore. I have amazing friends who support me every single day. And obviously I have this huge army full of my spiritual support. So it's all right. It's all good. But I am here to support others who felt like me. And then the others who I would think a lot of the reason being that others didn't support me or pushed me away or called me names like crazy was maybe because they themselves never had the courage to deal with any of the stuff they were going through. They were not able to talk about it. Maybe their throat chakras were blocked. And me bringing up my issues meant, well, here's a platform where you can talk about it. And many people have to me. It's always been a thing where people come to me and tell me what they've gone through, what they are going through, because they know I'm not going to kick them when they're down. And I probably have some intuitive advice if they are seeking that. But if they're just seeking someone who listens and understands. They come to me. Even the people who did kick me when I was down or shunned me. So they eventually come in when they need me. It happens all the time. And I'll never not leave a door open. For someone who's in pain. So, transcending the self. I'll be there for you. Please be there for me. Even if I don't need it. Even if I'm not codependent anymore. One sec. And, sorry about that. When I'm saying please be there for me, I'm saying buy my book. You might be in it. And you might know someone who needs to read it. Share it. Watch and share my videos. But definitely buy my book. And don't only support me for my newfound health, but support others who need radical self-love, who need to understand that they are worthy, they are divine beings, who need to understand that they can let go of shame and guilt and have compassion and forgiveness for the self, no matter where they are, what they've been through. I had a friend of mine, who asked me why he should read my book. And when I explained to him that well, really a little bit of what I've been through, right? And he has told me story after story after story of how he got to be where he is and his trials and tribulations through many years. He says, well, I didn't have a hard childhood. I had everything I needed. But you're my friend, right? You're my friend. Wouldn't you want to support me? Wouldn't you want to walk in my shoes for a minute? I would read your book. Moving on. Oh yeah, see how quickly I do that? Done. Kidding. So let's move on, yes, towards a psychology of being. From my boyfriend. Yes, I am without boyfriend. And that's okay. I don't mind it. I really don't. I don't just want it to be anybody. I want the real deal. I want it all. I want it all, and I deserve it all. Yes, I do. And I will wait until he comes for me. Or I come for him. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. One day it will happen. Oh, I can barely see this. Give me a second. I need to turn on my light. Alright. So, we're going through this because on our way up to self-transcendence, we need to understand the rules. And I love Maslow's rules because, well, he's amazing. Yeah. Like we all are, but my thoughts seem to come out in his words, though. And he writes very beautiful. Deficiency motivation and growth motivation. The concept, basic needs, can be defined in terms of the questions which it answers and operations which uncover it. My original question was about psychopathogenesis. What makes people neurotic? My answer, a modification of and I think an improvement upon the analytic one, was, in brief, that, I love this, neurosis seemed at its core and in its beginning to be a deficiency disease, that it was born out of being deprived of certain satisfactions, which I call needs. In the same sense that water and amino acids and calcium are needs, namely that their absence produces illness. So, when you're a child, as I was saying earlier, and you're not given what you need, let's say, even hearing a parent frantic about bills, not being able to pay for a bill, right? What this does to a child is puts a blockage within their root chakra. So it leads to an ongoing feeling of lack. So during our meditations, when we're doing like sound healing and everything, and now I'm going to start doing guided meditations, I think, on the Patreon. Maybe I'll do a couple on here. But we need to go back into those first experiences so that we don't keep on playing out a cyclical pattern of lack in our lives. So whether that's us holding on to things too tightly or not budgeting, mismanaging money, not feeling that we're worth our own care and stability because of those early childhood experiences. Moving on. Most neurosis involves, along with other complex determinants, ungratified wishes for safety, for belongingness and identification. Don't shun people. For close love relationships and for respect and prestige. See how important those early childhood relationships are. And going on, we still have to make sure that even as adults that we understand our role in our community, family. My data were gathered through 12 years of psychotherapeutic work and research and 20 years of personality study. One obvious control research done at the same time and in the same operation was on the effect of replacement therapy, which showed with many complexities that when these deficiencies were eliminated, sicknesses tended to disappear. Still, another necessary long-time control research was on the family backgrounds of both neurotic and healthy people, establishing, as many others have also done, that people who are later healthy are not deprived of these essential basic needs satisfactions, i.e., the prophylactic control. These conclusions, which are now in effect shared by most clinician therapists and child psychologists, many of them would not phrase it as I have, make it more possible year by year to define need in a natural, easy, spontaneous way, as a generalization of actual experiential data rather than by fiat, arbitrary and prematurely prior to the accumulation of knowledge rather than subsequent to it simply for the sake of greater objectivity. The long-run deficiency characteristics are then the following. It is a basic or instinctoid need if 1. Its absence breeds illness. Obviously, if you don't have enough food in your home, you may have malnutrition. Its presence prevents illness. You have food in your home, preventing malnutrition. Its restoration cures illness. So once you didn't, now you do, you're cured, right? You were once had malnutrition and now you no longer do because you have food. For under certain, very complex free choice situations, it is preferred by the deprived person over other satisfactions. So this actually, the food one is a good one I was using because we definitely, when I was a child, for instance, did not have enough food in our house. And what we did have when we had food, like when we finally went and got food, my younger sister would eat as much as she possibly could. Like it was just, she ended up having a weight issue because whenever she would rather have that than something else, than spending time, let's say, outside playing or doing other things that made her feel satisfied. She would rather eat than color, right? She'd choose food over everything else because she was so used to the lack. And she didn't know when it was ever going to be there, right? I mean, none of us did, but it all depends on how your own psyche plays out with it. 5. It is found to be inactive at a low ebb or functionally absent in the healthy person. I say because they have suppressed the lower threshold of needs, it has been satisfied so deep I don't know. Sometimes my own writing drives me crazy. Oh, yeah, because they have suppressed their lower threshold of needs. Because surpassed, not suppressed. Once you surpass your lower threshold of needs, then the constant craving isn't there anymore. So even if you obviously need food to exist, you're not consumed by this all-powerful eat, right? Anymore. So it can work the same with lack and money. Once you have gone through the threshold, over the threshold, and feel once your lower chakra has been healed, right? Your root chakra, so you don't have this feeling of lack anymore. You know that you're fully supported and abundance is all around you and you are worthy, right? You no longer will do things to, I do this all the time. I forget this word. I don't know why. Self-sabotage. Yeah, that's what it is. You won't self-sabotage yourself into those same cyclical patterns of lack. So, 2 additional characteristics are subjective ones, namely conscious or unconscious yearning and desire, and feeling the lack or deficiency as of something missing on one hand, and on the other, palatability. It tastes good. Oh, it tastes good. It tastes good. Whatever. Palatability. It tastes good, right? So you're choosing then because, not out of lack, but out of choice, because you want to eat something because it tastes good, not out of like this uncontrollable urge to consume. One last word on definition. Many of the problems that have plagued writers in this area as they attempt to define and delimit motivation are a consequence of the exclusive demand for behavioral, externally observable criteria. The original criterion of motivation, and the one that is still used by all human beings except behavioral psychologists, is the subjective one. I am motivated when I feel desire or want or yearning or wish or lack. Right? Some people, I'm like, those are the cues for motivation. I feel desire or want or yearning or wish or lack. No objectivity observable state has yet been found that correlates with these subjective reports, i.e., no good behavioral definition of motivation has yet been found. I have a lot of notes in here, and sometimes it's funny reading them, but I will save you. Now, of course, we ought to keep on seeking for objective correlates or indicators of subjective states. On one hand, when we discover such a public and external indicator of pleasure or anxiety, I have this. That's why I'm laughing. I already designed this whole thing, and I have it. So I just need an engineer to help make it. Yes. On the day when we discover such a public and external indicator of pleasure or anxiety or of desire, psychology will have jumped forward by a century. I designed it for myself, and it just so happens it would help a lot of people, because especially those with any type of sensory issues. But I know a lot of individuals who would need it and want it anyway, so who don't have diagnoses, right? But until we find it, we ought not make believe that we have, nor ought we neglect the subject data that we do have. It is unfortunate that we cannot ask a rat to give subjective reports. Fortunately, however, we can ask the human being, and there is no reason in the world why we should refrain from doing so until we have better source of data. And before the monitor is produced, we do have the MECA Motivational Manifestational Map or Care Plan. So it's very much the same thing, just not as detailed as the monitor would be. So it is these needs which are essentially defects in the organism. Empty holes, so to speak, which must be filled up for health's sake, and furthermore must be filled from without by human beings other than the subject. That I shall call deficiency needs for purposes of exposition, and set them in contrast to another and very different kind of motivation. Okay, it will not occur to anyone to question the statement that we need iodine or vitamin C. I remind you that the evidence that we need love is exactly the same type. So, we do need love. However, again, outside love, see, when we're children, if we are getting all that we need, all our deficiency needs are sustained by our parents, right? And then the growth needs will take over later. But really, the deficiency needs, once those are sustained, we do not have a problem with radical self-love, with loving ourselves. We don't find fault in ourselves that's overbearing, right? We do not carry shame and guilt. We have forgiveness and compassion for the self. So we can easily offer all that to others, that love, understanding, compassion, all these things, right? Now, if you have had a different upbringing that involves abuse, and you cannot find radical self-love so easily, you have to work harder for it, and maybe you won't find it till you're 40. So, the outside love ends up being more important than the internal love. So I remind you that the evidence that we need love is exactly the same as iodine or vitamin C, right? But it's really our own love and the purity of that makes the difference. Without it, all our relationships are pretty much lies. They are. You don't believe them. You don't believe that anyone really cares about you. And because you kind of like, well, if they really knew me, they really knew who I was, then they wouldn't. And like, you put all these like little descriptor type things on them. It's really hard to talk about because I remember how it felt, and that's why I have to be here. That's why I'm here, for others, to help them through this, because that's all that matters, is your own love for yourself. No matter what, like, don't ever let anybody make you feel guilty or say that you are being selfish for giving to the self, for doing your self-care, or for using forgiveness and compassion for the self, for not blaming, shaming yourself, right? For letting go of guilt and shame. That is healthy. And oftentimes, narcissists can find you, the ones who are struggling with these ideas, because you're easily manipulated by these ideas that you are unworthy of your own compassion and care. So, I just want to let you know that you are worthy, and I'm going to help you through it, and keep reminding you so you can be an expert in radical self-love, so you can love others and give to others in the most genuine way. You know, like a fountain, it just flows out naturally. You don't expect anything back from others this way. You let go of codependency and the need for others to love you and accept you. They do, because you love and accept yourself. You will attract others who love and accept you genuinely when you love and accept yourself. Genuinely. Genuinely. Right? So, I'm just going to read the end of this page, and then I think I'm going to stop, because we have so much on the next couple pages to go over. So, in recent years, more and more psychologists have found themselves compelled to postulate some tendency to growth or self-perfection to supplement the concepts of equilibrium, homeostasis, tension reduction, defense, and other conserving motivations. This was for various reasons. And then I think tomorrow we're going to keep going on with this. Yeah. This chapter is really long, but it's really good. It's really good stuff. You guys will love it. I know you will. So, I'm going to go back to designing my book cover for The Snake That Never Sheds. And remember, if you want to read it right now, you can, or you can listen to it on our Patreon channel, which is in the description below one of those sides. In that little, there's a little arrow going down, and you just click on that, and then all our information will come up, and it will say The Snake That Never Sheds. Go to the Patreon, click on that, and I read it to you, and then also on there I read it to you. But there is a printout version, and I do the commentary as well. So we will end this for the day. I love you so much, Radical Self-Love experts. Experts in self-care, master manifestors. Yes. Thank you so much for spending this time with me each and every day. Thank you for your likes, comments, shares, and subscription. Thank you for your support and love. It means everything from infinity.